Alright, then let's continue on. I'm on the bottom of page 102 using a view start file. And the author says there's kind of a problem with what he's done so far. That meaning that with him putting in this line, if you manually put it in, which as I showed you is okay to do, alright, but if you manually put it in and you put it in, let's say to 40 or 50 views, and now the name changes, you've got to go back and change it in all 40 or 50 places, which probably isn't something that you would want to do. Alright, so as he says, we can resolve this by using a view start file. Please look up on the screen here. Right now, our view start file says this, but there's absolutely no reason we couldn't change it so that it said ~views/shared/_basic layout.cshtml. All right. The other thing too that's not really mentioned in here, but I want you to know, you can have as many layout files as you want to or need to have. Now, typically, if you want a common look and feel for your website, you might have only one layout file. But for instance, let's just pretend for a second that here at Rankin, every department that we had here had its own page, and every page had a different color scheme. Then, once all that stuff gets put together, we could have, you know, however many programs we have between the two campuses or three campuses, 15 to 20, we could have 15 to 20 different files. That would be fine. All right. So again, my hope is that you all understand the view start file. And again, I know I've said this before, I just want to say it one last time. Please realize once I close home, all right, that notice that the layout is under shared. Right now, this is under nothing. We could have put this under shared. Maybe we should have. All right. But the point is, what's underneath here, we would not go and put some kind of a layout file in there that we wanted to use anywhere other than for the home page. All right. And that's pretty much, the author says that kind of without saying it. All right. Okay, so it says the view start file contains a value for the layout property, which means we can remove it. We already talked about this. All right. So in other words, the index file can now look like this. It's pretty much what it looks like, if not what it looks like right now. But the index.cshtml file, there it is. All right. Now again, that will work, and we don't need that line that we had in here previously if we had set it up originally. But the point is, what you should notice, either way of doing it, whether it's this way or this way that we had it before, we're putting as little code in the actual view file as possible if we're going to share the outward appearance of the view between different view files. They say this here, I know I said it before, but if you didn't get it, weren't listening, whatever, notice on page 103 in this caution, it's what I mentioned to you before. It's important to realize the difference between not having any layout property at all listed and having a layout property that says layout equal null. When it says it's equal to null, there is no layout file. When you leave it out completely, it says use whatever your default is, which again typically is going to be _layout.cshtml. All right, so the author comes in here and says, as a quick and simple demonstration, okay, he's going to come in here and he's going to add yet another method. All right, another method into the home controller. So I'm going to do the same thing. So again, I'm going to jump back into my home controller. Underneath my action result index, I've now got an action result, name and price. All right, so I'm going to right mouse click on this. Again, choose view. By default, the name of the view will be name and price, because by default it's the same name as the corresponding method. All right, and the author says, again, make it empty, make it product, but this time choose use a layout page. All right. Okay, so make it empty, choose product, choose use a layout page, and notice, because I said it before, mine is set. If yours is empty right now, so if yours looks like this, click the ellipsis, go over to views, find basic layout, CSHTML, and click OK. All right. And then click add. And again, you see how small this is. All right. What they want us to do then, again, it says ensure the use a layout page is checked. All right, and set it up like we just did. So I just showed you that. All right. And then, as it says here, make sure that it says this, okay, at the top. Make sure we have those razor statements at the top. You'll notice we do. Now, I'm asking you this question. Please look on the screen. I'm asking you this question. Is this legal? Is that legal, yes or no? Okay. I agree with you. That's just the tab that appears on the top. By default, it's got the same name as the page name, but you can change it if you want to. The author doesn't, so I'll just leave it the way it was. All right. Then he says Visual Studio uses slightly different content for view files, etc. So in other words, it has to know what your default one is. Okay? We could, if we decide, and again, please look at this because it's not exactly shown in the book. If I come in here and do this, so I'm going to remove this line that says layout equals. I'm going to get rid of it. Okay? I think you'd all agree it's gone. I'm going to go into my index, and I'm going to get rid of it. They're both gone, right? So now I'm going to go into my, down here, and I'm going to go into my view start. And I'm going to change this to basic layout. See what I did? See the difference? All right, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run the program again. Is it going to work? In other words, is it going to show me my layout file with a CSS in it? It should. In both of those. In both the one that comes up by default, which is my index, I'll give you an error. It says it could not be found. All right, because it's not under view shared, it's just under views. I made an error. Okay. Really, it probably should have been under view shared. I didn't put it there. It would be a good place to put it because it is being shared. All right. So I could manually move it, and I'll show you that in just a second. So there it is. Again, I could also do the same thing by saying /index. Okay. Well, I should be. Oh, home. It's got to be home index. Home/index. All right. There's my kayak. But now I should be able to, and underneath home, I should be able to put in name and price. And notice I've got that. All right. I didn't put in the thing that actually had the name and the price, but you get the idea. It is now sharing. Okay. Please look up on the screen because I did not do this well. And I don't know if the author showed it and I missed it or I didn't do it. But what I should have done, since this is a shared file, this basic layout, all right, I should put it under shared. Why? Because that's just a good practice. So I'm going to do what I like to do when I do this and I have to move files. All right. At least normally I would go in and make a copy. I don't think anything's going to happen here. So I'm just going to right mouse click. I'm going to use cut and then paste. Now it's underneath there. Now that it's underneath there, I do need to put in shared. Does all that make sense? I showed it to you in a very roundabout way, but I do want to make sure that people get that. All right. And again, another one of those things that very well the author could use in here, but not show us in here. These should both work now. It should work. We'll look at 3 different examples here. Just the name of the port, which should come up and it should work, provided I didn't spell anything wrong, and I don't think I did. All right. And I should be able to say /home. Still looks the same because index, again, is my default method. /index, and again, it still looks the same. And I can come back in here and say name and price. And you see now that it is sharing the same basic layout file. All right. And I believe I was incomplete because I think the author said in here, yeah, we want this. And I didn't put this in. So I will right now. So this on near the top of page 106, make sure you add those 2 lines. Name and price. I might have even had that one already. But also the line that comes underneath it. I guess I did have the name and price part. All right. But again, if we didn't have this line here, the system wouldn't know where to go to look for the name and to look for the price. All right? But hopefully, at least since it does know, it knows where to go and it'll find it. So let's see now if it says the product name is Kayak and the price is $275, I think it was. And there it is. So again, it is now sharing the layout. All right. And the author mentions again, there's more than one way of doing this. And I already showed you a couple. All right. Now, good, bad, or indifferent. There are, in this chapter, I noticed there are some typos. Some of them are real minor. Some of them maybe not as minor. I don't know. The author says, though, now that I've shown you the basics of views and layouts, I'm going to show you or turn to the different kinds of expressions that Razor supports. So we're going to add to this. I don't know what that word is. Passive view model?
I think they just announced space.
I do too. But I'm just saying, and at the beginning they spelled processes at the beginning of this chapter with a Z. So, I mean, whoever he had proof this didn't do the most superb job. All right? But notice what it says. What an action method does do, an action method. It passes a view model object to a view. But an action model should never work with formatted data. The formatting should always be done in the view. So it should pass unformatted data basically to the view, which will format it, then present it. All right, that's pretty much what they say in here. So the view should use the view model object to present content to the user. The view should never change any aspect because this implies logic. The view should never have any logic in it. So again, the action method should never do formatting. The view should never have any logic in it in a true MVC type of application. And the author says, again, to get the best from the MVC framework, you need to respect and just do it because it's the right thing to do. All right? Not because there's any consequences if you don't. It's just that's what you're supposed to do. All right? Okay. So the author says, notice what we did here. We passed the complete product object to the view model. All right? Says then we used Razor with the at model to just pluck out, so to speak, the pieces that we need. All right? Please look on the screen because I'm bringing up some stuff that's not in the book. I'm asking you this question. Could I have come in here and could I have also added the category and, you know, whatever else? Could I have added the other fields in here? Sure. We weren't told to do that, so I'm not. But again, anything, so if I say here, and at model dot, anything that's in there. So I could add category, name, price, product ID. All right, if I want to. Okay? All right. And that's kind of what the author says in here. The other thing, too, and I just want to show this to you, all right, because it's a little different from what we did last year. When we did this last year, if you look on the screen, we wouldn't have said this. All right? We would have probably said, he manually puts in that $sign there, but we probably would have said at model.price.toString and then formatted it with currency. That actually is a cleaner way of doing it, because if right now if it costs more than $999.99, you don't get a comma. Now, is that a big thing? Of course not. All right. But the other thing too, did you notice with the price, it didn't put 275.00. Not a big thing. But again, just to show you that, so I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to remove the $sign, and I'm going to put .toString, and I'm going to format it for currency. All right? Then I'm going to go back and run this again. I haven't even tried this. It just came to me right now that that's a cleaner way of doing it. But I know no reason why it shouldn't work. Oh, there's $2. I don't know if I didn't remove the first one or not. But you can see how it's formatted better, did it? Nope, I did not remove that. Now, again, is that a big thing? You know what? Yeah, it is. That's a pretty big thing. Because if you are going to be going out, if this is your website, by doing it the way I just showed it to you, and believe me, I'm not saying, yeah, well, the author should listen to me. I don't mean that. But this will give you consistency. All right? And you can be sure that all of your decimal values will be formatted in currency in the same way. Plus, it would look kind of bad, not terrible, but kind of bad if you forgot to put the $sign in. All right? Then it would just say 275. All right. The author makes this big distinction here. Again, I'm not reading to you. On the top of page 108, the difference between processing data and formatting data. Processing data is what's done in the model. Formatting data is what's done in the view. End of that sermon. All right? So for the rest of the chapter, which is about 10 more pages here, the author comes in and says he's going to tell you about some of the other stuff you can do with Razor expressions. Now, I'm hoping we have no problems here, but I tell you the truth, I went back over this morning to make sure, and I only got this far. So I'm hoping there's no problem. We'll see as we go on. All right. So the author says the simplest thing you can do with a Razor expression is to insert a data value into the markup. You do this using an @model expression to refer to properties and methods. Or you use the view bag. Remember, that view bag, for lack of better words, is kind of a wild card. You can go and set anything, the view bag, you can create a property on the fly, set it to anything you want, print it out, and do whatever you want to do with it. All right? It says you've already seen examples of both of these, but for completeness, we've added a new action method to the controller called demo expressions that passes data to the view using the model object and the view bag. So we've now got this, which is on, fortunately or unfortunately, on 2 pages. So I'm going to grab this, go to my home controller, and down on the bottom, it'll give me an error right now because it's incomplete. All right, but we'll fix that in just a minute. Sure that one's there. I'll get rid of it. All right, so what do we have in here? Let's just take a look at it. What we're doing is we're saying we've got a field in here called product count, and it's like, where'd you get that from? We just made it up because we're using the view bag. So it's how many kayaks do we have in stock? The answer is 1. All right, can we express ship a kayak? It looks like yes we can. So that's true. Can you apply, is there any kind of discount that can be applied to a kayak? No, so that's false. All right, is there a supplier? There is no supplier that's named right here. So as you can see, as soon as I remove this, that the supplier is set to null. All right, so it says to return my product back to the view. What that means is, what that view understands, please look up on the screen here, what this view will understand is it's already got access to all this stuff, but it now also has access to this stuff. Hopefully that makes sense. Not only that, all right, if we make a demo expression view, this stuff will be passed in to that view. All right, and I believe that's what the author wants to do. Because again, remember, we're working with the .cs HTML files. So it says we've created a strongly typed view that's called demo expression. All right. So in other words, we're going to right mouse click on here, add a view, call demo expression. It will be empty. Please look up on the screen. Again, I'm showing you something that's not in the book. If I decide I'm going to create my own views, and I want to create a view where I'm able to add products, I probably want to make this a create view. If I want to add my own view so that I'm able to remove products, I'll make it a delete. If I want to be able to read the existing products, that, edit, all right, those make sense. What we're going to do is once we do a product of our own and we use, instead of choosing empty like we've been doing for our controllers, we're going to choose MVC5 with entity framework with read and write actions. All those will be created for us. But since we chose empty, we'd have to go in and manually create them like this. All right. So we want it to just be empty. We, again, only have product here. All right, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Create a strongly typed view, view home folder. All right, and I believe we're supposed to still use the same layout file that we've been using. If not, it's no big thing. We could always remove that. All right, so I'm going to click Add. Okay, so we now have this in there. Again, it gave us that layout file by default. We really don't need it in there, okay, because we've got this in View Start. but you can leave it in there. Sure doesn't hurt anything. All right. Then they want us to come in and put in a table, and that table is going to include the model name, the model price. So the name, all right, it should be kayak. The price should be $275. Then the count, which I believe that was set to 1. So we're going to come in there and add that stuff underneath here to the view. And again, this is demo expression. I'm going to try to see if I can just run it from right here. So I'm going to right mouse click on demo expression, choose view in browser, and let's see if it comes up. It should have what? It should be formatted using, let's see, the layout page could not be found. Oh, because remember, I moved that to shared. So that's my error. All right. And the author actually takes it out. So just to show you, I'll run it with it in there. And it should work just fine. There it is. It's kind of ugly. It's not formatted well. There's very little CSS in there. All right. But it does work. And it's using our layout. But also, I could just comment this out now. And again, it should work. All right. Just to be sure, let's close this and run it again. It should look exactly the same. And you can see it does. All right. So the author mentions he created a table. That's all fine. You know what a table is. All right. You saw what it looked like. Okay. All right. Again, the result is not pretty because we have not supplied any CSS styles to this. Cool. All right. Setting attribute values. I'm on the middle of page 110. And the author says here, all of the examples so far have set the content of elements, but you can also use razor expressions to set the value of attributes. All right. And it says listing 515 shows how we changed the demo expression to use ViewBag properties to set attribute values. All right. So in other words, rather than manually doing things, now notice what's going to be in here. Let's take it from the bottom up. This, now what we're going to have outside of our div there is we're going to have a check or 3 check boxes. All right, one that says apply discount, one that says express ship, and one that says supplier. All right. In addition, we've got a div up here, and it's underneath our table. All right, where we're getting the apply discount, but the point is we're getting that apply discount from our view bag. We're getting the express ship from our view bag. We're getting the data supplier from our view bag. All right, so we're getting these values, and then we're saying the containing element has data attributes, and we're showing this. All right, if you remember, what did we do up here? All right, we set the product count to 1, the express ship to true. So if there's a checkbox for that, it should be checked. We set the applied discount to false and the supplier to null. So neither one of those would be checked. All right. So I'm going to come in here, grab this stuff that's right here, and put it right underneath the table in here. All right. Now it looks like it's giving me errors. That's not good. It says add viewbag.apply discount. Probably means there's some more code that we have to add that we don't have. All right. That's all I can think of. Let's see in just a minute if we make some changes. Look at the rest of this if those errors go away. All right. The author says he used razor expressions to set the value for some data attributes on a div. All right. Data attributes, which are attributes prefixed by the word data, have an informal way of creating custom attributes for many years. All right? In English, what that means is, by us saying data minus like this, it will go in and create some HTML for us. All right? So it says start the example app, target the action method, and look at the source. It says you'll see that razor has been used to set the values. Well, either I made a mistake or it's going to rectify itself in just a minute, but we'll find out. In fact, remember, since it's green there, those are warnings. So let's run it and see what it looks like. All right. Does all that make sense? Do you understand how it used those data minus attributes to create this? And you can say, well, couldn't you have just done that yourself? Yeah, but it was done on the fly by using the view bag. And I believe the reason the author showed it like this was to show you that you can add stuff on your own by using the view bag. That isn't considered very good practice. Because you know, where did I get this variable? Where did I get this stuff? We just pulled it out of the air. That's basically what you're doing with the view bag. All right, that's not like setting the title, for example. And I should have shown that. I'm sorry I did not. Let me grab it one more time. Get rid of that. And run this again. So you see those lines that say div or data minus. All right, we've got this. If I right mouse click and view the page source, the author says, notice what got set up for us. All right. That HTML was written for us based on the fact that we use the data minus. All right. It says Razor is aware of the way that attributes such as checked are used. That's why for that express ship, I think was set to true. That's why it was checked. All right. That's exactly what ours look like, is what the author shows you here on page 112. All right. Not only can you do that, you can use conditional statements. Somebody tell me before we actually look at it, what's a conditional statement? Give me the two conditional statements you can use in C#. If is right. What's the other one? Switch. Does that make sense? Not only that, and I don't know, I don't remember even if they show it in here or not, you can use looping. We've already done a little bit of that with like looking at for each, but you can use while loops, you can use for loops, you can use do while loops. All right. So the author says Razor is able to process conditional statements. All right. Why does that matter? Look on the screen, please. What the author says here is what we want to do is if the stock level is 0, we want to have the message out of stock come up. All right. If it's 1, we want the message low stock to come up. If it's anything other than 0 or 1, we want the product count. Not only that, if it's 1, we want it to say low stock, and we want the count. It'll always be 1, but we want that. All right. So this is back in our demo expression. All right. He's adding to the table, so I'm just going to grab this and grab that from the next page. So I'm going to grab that. It'll give me an error right now because I didn't grab everything from both pages. And then grab this. All right. Let's just save this and run it. and notice what we have. There is only one in stock, so it does say low stock. So our conditional expression worked. In fact, to be good with this, what we should do is I should go back up to the controller here, and I should set the, I can even do it in the view bag. I think that would work. All right, I'll just set the product count here to 0. Okay, yeah, that's where I do it anyway. So I'm going to set that to 0, and I'm going to run this again. I got to change back to my demo expression. Since I changed here, it's going to just run the home page by default. But if I type in, I think it was demo expression. Okay, so maybe it wasn't. Oh, I got to do home demo expression. All right. Now it's out of stock because I changed the product count from a 1 to a 0. All right. Then finally, I'll do it one more time, and I'll just put 6 in here. So I've got something. Oh, program's still running. Stop the run. Put a 6 in there. And now when I run it, okay, now when I run it, it should come in, and it should just give me the number in stock, which is 6. Again, since I didn't do this, I'll have to go back to home demo expression. And it gives me the number. All right. And that may sound real simple, but I just do want to make sure people know. I had 3 possibilities there. You should test all 3 of them. All right, just for completeness. Well, the first one worked. Why wouldn't the rest of them work? All right. Now, notice the author says, noticed I had to cast the value of the product count. All right, why? Because product count is, by default, an integer. And if there were none, we didn't want an integer in there. Okay, we wanted it to say out of stock. So the author, and he mentions how he did that. Okay. And again, you saw this already, so. All right. Again, conditional statements, I'm on the top of page 114, are important and raise their views because they allow content to be varied based on the data values. Think about this. What we're going to be moving toward is using lambdas and or link queries. All right. Maybe what I wanted in there, maybe what I'd want would be for, let's say I had thousands of products. I wanted it to search through and find out which products had a stock level of 0. So in other words, what's out of stock? Or which one has a stock level of 1, which means I better order another 1 or 2 or whatever. All right. So the author says figure 17 shows the addition of an if statement to the demo expression CSHTML. All right. And it's just a typical kind of if statement. Again, notice if it's, now it says if it's 0 out of stock. So in other words, we're going to be getting the same thing. We're just doing it in another way. That's all. I'm not even going to change mine. So in other words, when you look up on the screen here, we did it with a switch. You could also do it with an if. All right. Now, in most languages, if you write the same statement in both a switch and an if, in most languages, the switch does process faster. All right. I'm not going to go change it. I could. It would look exactly the same if we did. It's no biggie, I don't think, one way or the other. All right. Enumerating arrays and collections. When writing an MVC application, you will want to enumerate the contents of an array or another kind of collection. In other words, it could be an array. It could be a list that we looked at yesterday. It could be a dictionary. that we looked at and talked a little bit about yesterday. All right? So, or some other kind of collection of objects, and generate content that details each one. To demonstrate how this is done, the author defines a new action method in the home controller called demo array. So notice this is what we get if we just run the default. But if we run demo array, now we've got what? We've got 4 products. All right? So let's grab this. Go back to our home controller. They actually dropped this right under this one. All right, it really wouldn't matter exactly where I placed it, so. Okay, but there's demo array. All right, says this action method creates a product array object that contains simple data values and passes them to the view method. All right, so what do we want to do? Well, notice what we have to change. It says we have to now create the associated view, and we have to let it know that it's under Razor Model's product, but it will be dealing with an array. So we put the brackets in there. So let's go in and create that view. Let's drop this code in. Again, I'm going to make it a strongly typed view. So empty product. All right. We're going to say use a layout page, but I'm going to remove this. So it'll use what's in view start for us by default. All right. So that's what's in there. Then we are told to add this to the top. So I'll do that. So instead of this, we're going to change it to this. All right. We added the brackets on the end, meaning that we're working with an array. Okay, we've already got this. So I'm just going to put the if statement in here. All right, and let's try to run it. If it works, we should have 4 lines, and we do. Again, I could have gone back in there and formatted those with toString, which would have made it look a little better than it looks. All right. There's virtually no CSS put in here, so this is pretty doggone ugly. That's not what this chapter was about, though. The author mentions they used an add if. Again, we need the @ sign there. Why? Because this is a razor block. All right. And also the for each is another razor block. All right. We're almost finished here. 1 or 2 more pages, and I think that the next page is the last page, I think, in the chapter. Yep. So, dealing with namespaces. It says you will notice I had to refer to the product class by using its fully qualified name in the for each. Let's go back and look. So in the for each, razors.model.product. Why? Look on the screen, please. Notice how here I've got this. That's an array, but now I want to use it, and I don't want to use it as an array. I want to be able to go through it an element at a time, but not as an array. Okay, that's why we needed to put the razors.models. Well, the author says if we don't want to do that, we can break this up into 2 lines. So in other words, again, if you look up on the screen here, instead of having this line of code, which I will now comment out, we can replace that line of code with 2 lines of code. All right, But the using razor models means that in here now, I can do that. And it doesn't error out by removing the razor dot models that it would have otherwise. And again, we should, of course, save it, run it again, make sure we get the same exact results that we got before. And we do. So again, that's what we changed. So it says in the last chapter we got in this chapter rather, we got an overview of the Razor View engine. You may or may not agree, but the majority of the stuff done in this project was fairly simplistic. Tomorrow what we will do is, it's called Essential Tools for MVC. I want to look through it one more time, but it's actually a chapter broken into 3 different sections because he talks about 3 different tools. All right? So he talks about Ninject in here. He talks about the Visual Studio testing tools in here, and something that's called mock, M-O-Q. I'll go through it and see what, pull out of here what I think is worth us knowing. All right? It's not that the other stuff isn't important, but I don't know see the need to go over something when as we go through projects we're not going to be doing it. All right? Again, I'm not trying to say that it's not important, though. Just more or less, for lack of a better word, it's a time thing. All right, we're going to do one more thing right now. What? I'm going to show you. Why? Because I should have had you do it at the beginning of the semester. All right. It's called Setting Up Your Environment. Am I right in assuming that everyone in here has these 2 products on their machine? You've all got Notepad, all right, and that you've all got Git. Git SCM is just Source Control Manager. That's all right. What he wants you to do, and this is, I'm just trying to keep in sync with Paul's class. Are we going to need this? I don't know. But he wants you to go out, and I've already done it, type in Tortoise Git download, and download Tortoise Git. Don't even do the download yet, because I'll walk you through what he shows. Here's how to install Notepad and Git, but we've all done that. You all said that. All right? So you can go to https://tortoisegit.org, and you can install it. All right? And you can see the stuff that's in here. Don't worry about step 7 here. We'll look at that in a minute. I couldn't even get mine to work for step 7. All right, out of me and the 3 people in the first year, because they've done this, 1 was able to do it and 3 of us were not. So we're going to see whether or not we have any problems with this as we go on. As it says, if you're prompted for you shouldn't be prompted for the location of Git, because it should automatically find it. If you're prompted for your name and email address, use your name, use the school's email address. So, it's, jscott what are yours? InsideRankin.org, I think. All right, so that's what you should put in there. So you should all be able to do try that again. You should all be able to do step 5 and step 6. Don't worry about step 7 yet. All right? So, and I'll come right back to this. All right. You've all installed Git in Notepad already. That's not a big thing. Okay, so we've gone through all that stuff, which brought us to here. All right. Now, again, to my knowledge, because I asked, every one of you has installed Git. But, what I'd like all of you to do, even before we do this step 7, because otherwise I'll forget it, is I'd like all of you, please, to go out to github.com. github.com. Last semester, Grace, can I ask you, when you save stuff, did you use Bitbucket? No, you used regular Git for your stuff? Okay. We used Bitbucket. All right. Why? Because Paul told me that's what he was doing, and then he changed partway through the semester, evidently. All right. So when you go in here, it says learn Git, etc. All this stuff. There's read a guide, start a project. Yours may not look at all like this, because you probably, even though you set up Git, you don't have a GitHub account. That's my guess. So hopefully somewhere on here, it asks you or gives you the ability to set up a GitHub account. All right, I'm going to click here. Could be in there, could be someplace else. All right. But I would like you to set up a GitHub account. All right. I don't, all that I'm going to care about when you set yours up is that I know what it is. So for the rest of you, Grace's, it sounds like may already be set up. But
I think we actually, it was Bitbucket.
Okay. I have no problem with you doing it like this. In other words, if it asks you for a name, put in your first initial, your middle initial, your last name, followed by the word Rankin. That's totally fine. Okay? And I'll let you do that, and then I'll tell you why we're doing this. Yes? Okay. If you already have that, then what I will need, if you've already got a GitHub account, is eventually I'll need you to give me what that is. All right? The reason that we are doing this, just so you know, the reason that we are doing this is the school has entered into something called Github Classroom. I am supposed to be taking all the assignments I'm giving you and put them out as Git repositories where you can pull them. All right, so you can grab them. See what I'm saying? And then when you finish assignments, Mr. Hardy asked me today, he said, hey, I've got one of those projects that's too big to email you. So I put it on a flash drive. We're not supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to take your assignments and push them or make them available to me. Does that all make sense? Now, GitHub has changed over the last year. If you don't know this, quick history lesson. About a year ago, Microsoft bought GitHub. All right? Eventually Microsoft and Walmart are swallowing up everything else, everything that exists in the world. All right? The good news is by the time they got it all, I'll be dead, so I don't have to worry about that. All right? But the point is, Microsoft did a good thing. And the good thing they did was it used to be, the reason we used Bitbucket instead of Git or GitHub is in a year ago when it was still a private entity, you could not make private repositories under GitHub, only public ones. We didn't want that where all of yours would be public, that if somebody knew Luke's, where he was on GitHub, they could grab his homework and use it as though it was their own. But now you're allowed private repositories on here. That's why. And the fact that we're using GitHub. Now I've got, and I'm going to print this off for you. I don't know how good it is because I haven't read it yet. Shame on me. But this thing is called Github Classroom for Students. And it's about 8 or 9 pages. But I'm going to print out a copy for everybody. And what should be happening, as soon as I get my poop together and set it up for the class, is when there are assignments, you should be getting emails with basically a hyperlink in them. You click the hyperlink, and that should give you the information that you need. All right, I haven't done that yet. Yes?
Just real quick, Paul, so we're recording here, can you Should I select Tortoise Git link or open SSH?
Do they have a default?
Yeah.
Just choose the default. You should choose the defaults for everything. All right. So like I said, I'm going to grab this. I don't know how good it is, but there isn't that much documentation out there for students, to be honest with you. There's not that much for instructors either. But my hope is that by Monday of next week, you have read this. All right? We have to eventually go towards this. I give Evan and I give Paul much more credit than I give Jeff because they're both using it. The good news for Evan is if something doesn't work, he can ask Paul, who gives him an answer like that. All right? And Paul does answer me, but sometimes he can only answer questions I have, and if I don't know the question to ask, he has nothing to answer. So let me grab this. I'm going to put it on 201, print all of it, and make sure that it's on both sides. Good. And we want 11 copies. All right. Now, they come in here. Please look up on the screen. It says, now that you have Git and Tortoise Git installed, so go back to where we were. They say, we need to make some small configuration changes. I could not make these. Did you hear me? One person out of 4 of us could. So they want you to right mouse click on your desktop and choose Tortoise Git settings. So right mouse click somewhere on your desktop and choose Tortoise Git, and underneath that, settings. And if you select Git down here, so this is what's going to come up. And if you click here, you'll get this credential thing, and it'll come up and look like this. Paul used himself in here as an example. It says verify that your name is in there, verify that the school email is in there. If you set them up on the previous step, of course, they should be. All right? This is the one we couldn't do. Under Credential, all right, it says set the credential to manager all Windows users. So that's under Git Credentials. I couldn't change mine. Mine was some default value, and it didn't give me the chance to change anything else. Is that going to matter? I don't know. This is going to be a learning experience for me, just as it is for you. The good news is, after this semester, you'll basically have everything for this class out on your GitHub repository. Most everything. Not the stuff we've done so far, but you could upload that stuff too. Then if you were to ever apply for a job as an ASP.NET programmer, you could just give basically your GitHub credentials or make everything public for somebody else. All right? So again, I could not change this. You can click the down arrow, and if you can change yours to manager all window users, do it. And then click OK. If you can't, you can't. I couldn't. So you say, okay, fine, what does that do? I don't know. Yes.
If you scroll down a little, I was able to get the manager if you open settings right there.
I did that already on mine. Yeah. If it doesn't work, click open settings. But I did that. It didn't work there either. All right. I don't know if it worked for any of the other students, but I tried it. Believe me, before I had them do it, I clicked around and tried a whole bunch of stuff, some of which worked, some of which didn't work. Now, look on the screen, please. Okay? This is what he had people do. This is how they did Visual Studio. Okay? So he chose .NET Desktop Environment, ASP.NET Web Development, Data Storage, and Processing. Let's say you didn't. So let's say that you didn't do that. You're like, well, hell, I know I didn't do that. you should be able to go back into here, all right, and open that up and actually do an update if you go in there, if you want to do that, and update what you've done, all right? Now, this is the other thing, and Paul and I were not in total agreement on this. He's a lot brighter than I am, period, but he's much brighter hardware-wise than I am. But he said what we're going to be using in here by default is something that's called local DB. It's the easiest way to work with things. He claims that if you use local DB, you're not going to be able to port your product up to the internet. I think he's wrong. Okay? So what he says is you should install SQL Server. Says only run this once, but he's got these steps in here where he says to install SQL Server and install SQL Server Management Studio. Balsamiq isn't that big a thing for the class, but we can. All right. And install Visual Studio 2019 extensions. Some of these are on there anyway. All right. Then configure it, etc. You can see all this stuff that's in there. There's no way that we're going to be able to go through all of this right now as a class. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this, print out the last few pages that we aren't able to go through, and give them to you. Because the chances of all of us being able to go in and put everything in here that he said and have everybody's work are probably none. That has nothing to do with you. It's got a lot more to do with me. So I will do this. So if you've done all that stuff, you're good for right now. So we've gone through up to here. So we've gone through half of his install instructions. All right. So I'm going to go and I'm not going to run this off now. Why? His Balsamiq stuff, I've got a different Balsamiq key that I set up for you guys. All right, I'm going to ask that you do that one. What's Balsamiq? You may or may not remember that. We did a little bit of that either the first or second semester last year. You can do what's called wireframing, and you can set up the way you want websites to look with wireframing. So I'm going to do this. I will give you this tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon, I should say, when you come in. I will probably end up doing this tomorrow morning. All right, so it is about 2:41. You want a break? Take a break. All right, we're here, what, another hour and a half. So you've got time. No test, no written test for Chapter 5. There'll be no written test for Chapter 6. All right, my hope is that by Monday, we'll be able to get all this install stuff done. I'll have the classroom stuff working. All right, and we can start going through the database first and the code first examples that I mentioned to you. Each one of those is about a 30-page PDF, but many of the 30 pages are just filled with screenshots. So we should be able to, at worst, do one next week and one the following week. At best, we get them both done next week, but I'm not trying to shove this stuff down your throats. You seem like it sometimes, but I'm not. All right, so that's all. So work on, if you still have to work on your portfolio, work on that or anything else you have. What I don't want to hear is, well, I already gave you my portfolio. I've got the project working. Can I go home now? No. Okay? Again, this is meant to be closely monitoring or looking like a real-life work environment. I can't imagine you going up to your boss and saying, boss, I did everything I was supposed to do today. Can I just go home now?